Imagine walking into a restaurant like you are totally starving.
Right. You just need a meal.
Exactly. You sit down, but instead of bringing you actual food, the waiter just drops this hollow, empty pastry on your table.
Sounds incredibly frustrating.
Oh, it gets worse.
My.
Then they hand you a bill for $435, and, they actively gaslight you when you just ask for a glass of water.
Yeah, that sounds like an absolute nightmare.
It really does. But today's exploration into our source material looks at a dense 40-plus page masterwork treatise that argues this isn't just some bizarre dining nightmare.
No, it's actually the exact blueprint of how the modern justice system operates.
Spot on. We are diving into a text by an autodidact named Ricky L Pinzon.
Also known as Ricky Munday, right?
Right. And his piece is titled The Triad of Institutional Autopsy. And our mission today, addressing you, the learner, directly, is to unpack this wild, highly structured critique.
But before we get into the meat of this, we do need to set a vital ground rule.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Please.
So this material contains some very intense systemic critiques of government and legal institutions. And we want to make it crystal clear to you, the listener, that we are not taking sides here.
Right. No sides at all.
Yeah. We aren't endorsing his political viewpoints, left or right. Our sole job today is just to impartially report and unpack the fascinating ideas and metaphors contained in the original text.
Okay, let's unpack this, because Pinzon divides his work into 3 volumes, and we're going chronologically, starting with this concept he calls bureaucratic gastronomy.
Which is such a vivid way to describe how it actually feels to interact with the court system.
It really is. He deconstructs the courthouse as this cavernous dining hall where starved citizens are just served delay soup.
And red tape salad. It's so visceral.
Yeah. And even the architecture is designed to force submission. Like the tables for litigants are bolted to the floor at this specific angle.
Right. Leaving you literally no choice but to face the maitre d', who is the judge.
Wow. And then missing court reporters are equated to lost order tickets.
Exactly. The sign above the pantry basically reads, audio recording is for internal quality assurance only.
Which is so infuriating. And the legal jargon, he says that acts as MSG, right?
Yeah, like an artificial seasoning meant to completely obfuscate reality. He mentions the presumption of correctness croquettes.
Which, if I remember, gets served piping hot to the state.
But ice cold to the public. Exactly.
Okay, wait. Let's talk about the demurrer delicacy. That's the $435 empty pastry I mentioned earlier.
Yes. So a demurrer, in actual legal terms, is essentially a motion to dismiss a case. It argues that even if every single fact the plaintiff says is true, there's just no legal basis for a lawsuit.
Right. And Pinzon likens paying the massive filing fee for that motion to buying this hollow pastry full of air. You cut into it, and there is 0 factual substance.
None at all. But you still pay a premium just to look at an empty plate.
Well, which is wild. If a real restaurant operated like this, charging hundreds of dollars for empty plates and losing your order tickets, the health department would shut them down in a day.
Oh, immediately.
So how does this massive institutional kitchen manage to self-certify its own sanitation?
Well, what's fascinating here is that Pinzon argues the absence of a certified court reporter isn't a staffing accident.
It's not.
No, it is a deliberate architectural feature. Without an official transcript, the kitchen can just rewrite the menu retrospectively.
Oh, wow. So they maintain total control over the narrative.
Exactly. It's a closed feedback loop of performative clearance, where they basically conduct an internal audit, look in the mirror, and officially clear themselves without any external proof.
Wow. Okay, so if the health department isn't coming to save us, we need to look at how this machinery actually operates behind those swinging doors.
Right, because here the culinary satire kind of drops away and things get very structural.
And Pinzon doesn't just pull this out of thin air. His background really informs his perspective.
Yeah, he draws on his time in the Texas Youth Commission's Thinking Errors program.
Which is a psychological framework for diagnosing how individuals manipulate reality, right?
Correct. And he synthesizes that with his experience in California, appellate writ practice, which is the mechanism of suing a lower court to force them to follow their own rules.
Okay, so he builds this threefold metaphor out of that. First, there's the matrix,
which represents the deception required to make you believe the simulation is real.
Then the vivarium, representing physical containment.
And finally, the terrarium, which is this hermetically closed ecosystem completely sealed off from outside accountability.
And inside that terrarium is what he calls the belligerent night maneuver.
Yes. A judge who legally forfeits their statutory authority but just continues to move across the board using the sheer physical power of the bench.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because this is like a sports referee who has been officially fired by the league.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. But they're still out on the field, blowing the whistle, throwing penalty flags, and everyone just keeps playing along out of habit.
Exactly. The bailiffs, the clerks, they follow the physical presence of authority, not the invisible statutory boundary.
But wait, how do they justify that? Where does the power come from?
He points out that they invoke the people. They use the name of the governed to shield the rogue actions of the governing.
That is so twisted. How can a litigant possibly win a game where the referee is just inventing rules through physical intimidation?
Well, the short answer is you don't win their game.
You don't.
No. Pinzon introduces a tactic called revelatory Parrhesia.
Meaning the act of speaking dangerous truths.
Yes, but you're speaking them through the machine to a robot surrogate. You aren't trying to persuade the belligerent knight to change because the system is operating exactly as intended.
So you do it just to expose the sabotage.
Exactly. He calls this maintaining your epistemic sovereignty. By refusing to accept the simulation, you create a contradiction-tagged audit-grade ledger.
Oh, I see. So the goal isn't to win the rigged game. It's to shatter the terrarium and document the collapse for the permanent record.
You force the truth into the official record yourself, so future observers can see exactly when the system broke its own rules.
Okay, so now that we understand the machinery, what actually triggers a person to fight it like this?
For Pinzon, the geopolitical trigger was a physical collision with a Los Angeles County Sheriff's vehicle.
And when he tried to seek a remedy for that injury, he basically crashed right into the system's defense mechanisms.
Exactly. And he maps those defenses out using Edwin Sutherland's framework for white-collar capture.
Right, the concept of high-status operators using their actual job titles to execute procedural sabotage.
Yes. They aren't breaking the law in some dark alley. They are breaking it using the bureaucratic machinery itself.
And he also highlights how they deploy DARVO. Right. Deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender.
Yeah. You complain about being hit by a sheriff's car, and suddenly the institution denies the abuse, attacks your credibility, and treats you as the threat.
But he does offer antidotes to this: institutional courage and restorative justice.
And his ultimate tool is civic auditing. Organizing self-represented litigants into a disciplined force to monitor courtrooms, check for unsigned filings, expose those missing reporters.
So what does this all mean? Because, realistically, aren't everyday citizens who are already starved and exhausted going to be totally overwhelmed trying to audit this massive, hostile kitchen?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it all comes down to what Pinzon terms subjugated knowledge.
Meaning the system assumes we're just passive consumers who will eventually give up.
Exactly. Civic auditing flips that entirely. It transforms everyday people into active co-creators of justice.
Ah, using collective vigilance.
Yes. You take isolated, easily dismissed complaints and combine them into undeniable systemic data. It breaks the gaslighting, because they can't pretend the terrarium is secure when hundreds of citizens are pointing out the cracks in the glass.
Which brings us entirely back to you, the learner. Whether you are dealing with a localized bureaucracy or getting the runaround from a corporate help desk or just feeling totally overwhelmed by red tape.
It's everywhere, really.
It is. And Pinzon's framework offers a manual for maintaining your sanity. It teaches you to recognize the nuisance motion nachos in your own life.
Yes, and to hold on to your own epistemic sovereignty.
Yeah.
Don't let the system convince you that you're crazy just because you asked to see the recipe.
Exactly.
This raises an important question, though, regarding his ultimate goal. How do we as a society transition from this mindset of retributive rule enforcement to a model of genuine victim-centered repair?
Because the retributive model clearly just feeds the bureaucratic machine.
Exactly.
Well, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought today to mull over. It isn't directly stated in the text, but it builds entirely on Pinzon's philosophy.
I love these. Go for it.
If the architecture of a corrupt institution relies completely on the public's willingness to keep ordering from a rigged menu, what happens to the balance of power the exact moment an entire generation of citizens simply stands up, politely pushes their plates away, and leaves the dining hall to build their own kitchen?
That is quite the image to end on.
Thank you for joining this exploration into the source material. Stay curious.